calls me from out of the pit.
I'm Paul.
I'm Mark.
And this is the Return to the Sun of the show. This week, Mark and I are going to discuss the House of Svengoolie.
So this is so for Halloween Bonanza, which is in its third year on MeTV with Ben. He's decided that for the double features, that the Sven Squad is going to host one of the double features under the moniker House of Svengoolie. Starting with this week was the Labyrinth, and then the second one is Dark Crystal.
Yeah, this will be out before the second one comes out.
Yeah.
But see, like ourselves, he's old.
Correct.
So he's not going to stick around for the second half.
No,
the second half of the Bonanza.
No. So
we had every intention of watching it and then recording it, but it ended like midnight, and we're just like, we're too old for this. Let's do this later in the week.
Correct. So here we are.
Yep.
I mean, I think I've said it on our earlier videos. I just love the fact it's called House of Svengoolie.
Yeah.
It makes total sense with the Universal monster pictures.
Yep.
That the original monster you then get a house of with more monsters, and so makes total sense that the three and I think we'd agree that to me this seems a testing ground for what happens when Rich Coase does retire, and can these three carry a show?
Yeah.
And let's talk about that. We won't say our rating yet.
Yeah.
We'll kind of go into it. So.
And we're also going to talk about Labyrinth.
Yes.
Because Labyrinth was kind of a big deal to have on a channel like a show like his, because he mostly shows older sci-fi horror movies that most people have seen 1,000 times, or they're just older movies. Whereas, I mean, technically, Labyrinth came out in like
40 years ago,
like 87 or so. It's a newer movie for him, and it was kind of I think it was a nice way to start their. If this was their show, say this is like their
debut.
Their debut, or their like proto show,
pilot,
their pilot. That's the word. Let's get something newer, something that the kids.
Or as we said, the 30-year-olds.
Yeah,
that's young to us.
Yes,
and so I think it very much was like a Sven show.
Yeah.
I mean, it had some of the same beats. You get it. Look, for me, I think the focus seemed to be Svengoolie is mostly the host, and then I think Imp got second amount of screen time, and then Nostalgia for Atu brought up the rear.
Right.
But and I don't know if that's because he's also hosting. Bill Leff is hosting the cartoon show every day or 6 days a week. Practically.
That's my guess. He's probably working quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think Nostalgia for Atu works. His one-liners, I don't think would work as "let me describe the movie."
Yeah,
I don't think you could write enough. You know, so I thought Svengoolie did a great job of filling that role of just describing what the movie was about. So that I thought that worked really well with her hosting like that. So I think that made sense.
Yeah, because she got to do she got to do the information about who was in this movie.
Yeah.
Like what Sven does, like midway through an episode, he'll come in and fill in the blanks for people.
Yeah, so I think it made sense. I had thought it'd be Nostalgia for Atu, but I think it, in retrospect, it makes more sense to have her be not the straight person, but the less comic relief for that kind of stuff. It makes more sense.
Well, for starters, she has the name.
Yes, she does.
So there's that.
Yeah, and and clearly she's done hosting before, because she seems pretty.
Yeah.
She's a lot more polished than she was early on. So, so that worked, I think. I love the fact that they brought back skits like the late 70s and early 80s, Son of Svengoolie and Svengoolie. The fact that they were doing fully blown skits I think was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I know a lot of people don't like Imp, but I think he's a good foil. I think
I
he's
like him.
yeah, and I like how they've set him up as sort of the kid brother.
Yeah.
That they make fun of,
Mm-hmm.
that they maybe because I'm an older brother with kid brothers, so that appeals to me to have a kid brother to torture,
Mm-hmm.
and so I like the role that he. I mean, I think they worked well together as a team,
Right.
and so I think Imp brought something, to the table, whereas maybe he doesn't get to as much.
Well, it's almost like in the time that they have been characters on Svengoolie,
Hmm.
they've kind of got the bugs out. They've got
Yep.
they figured this stuff. It's a great way of doing it, where rather than have all these untested characters and then throw them into a brand new show and then have them, because the first couple episodes of any TV show aren't the best, and it's
Yeah.
amazing we stick in long enough to continue watching
Correct.
Seinfeld.
Yes. Yes.
So this way, at least they've got their chops. They figured out their personas. Gwen got her new gloves that everybody seems to complain about.
Yes.
And now, if they were to just boom drop House of Svengoolie as a thing, they've got this whole set built. They've got all these other characters. They've got the cast, Body Sorrell.
Yeah, he was involved. Yeah.
Sven did a but more than a cameo. He did a bit of a cameo, which would be fun to see. Like let's say Sven retires,
Right.
and just pops in every now and again. Like we're like in a sitcom where like who's at the door, and they open the door like there's somebody famous standing there, and the audience is applauding for like 15 minutes, and they're like waiting to tell their joke.
To me, it's
SNL.
To me, it's like Sven will eventually be like the band Foreigner. So you get Mick Jones. He doesn't perform with them anymore, but they wheel him. He waves to the crowd with his guitar in his hand that he doesn't actually play, and then they wheel him back out. It's like kind of like Sven kind of would be that.
Well, let's hope it's not that bad.
No, I know, but I think everything that wants to continue on has to do something like that.
Right, and even if let's say Doug goes the way of Sven, they've got Anita Exorcist, so they've got their musical.
Correct. Well, and they did a song. I mean, they did an extended that '80s tribute.
Yeah.
Was hilarious.
Yeah, it's probably the best part of the whole episode.
Yeah, was the song, and so the fact that, and then they did a callback to it later with the more '80s stuff, and so. Yeah, I think the fact that the energy level that these three with three of them, it gives you an ability to do way more skits and not wear any of them out. And so I remember I've read the comments since then, and a lot of people really, 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 and me too. I mean, I love Nostalgia for Archie. He's my favorite.
Yeah.
But so everyone's like, well, why isn't he the host and why isn't he the focus? But I don't, like I said, I don't think it works like that. He is much better. When they did the '80s callback script scene, it's really Imp and Svengoolie talking. He's just standing in the corner with his back to us.
Right.
And he has one great line. I mean, he's like, what he reminds me of is if again, let's quote Seinfeld. So if Svengoolie's Elaine and Imp is Jerry, then Nostalgia Ferratu is Kramer.
Yes.
It's really the way they've, set it up.
I was going to make a Family Matters comparison.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kramer works too. It's just there's always the character in a sitcom, there's always the character who becomes more loved than the main characters.
Correct.
And in the case, like, okay, Kramer was, Urkel. So Nostalgia Ferratu works the same way.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine a Kramer show.
Right.
I couldn't imagine a Urkel show.
No.
But the same way with Nostalgia Ferratu. He's fun. He's fun in short bursts because those short bursts are usually gold.
Yes, absolutely.
You couldn't do a whole show of one-liners.
No,
it doesn't work like that.
No. Yeah, so at least giving them each a job to do, and the fact that Svengoolie also sings. I mean, it just works out really well, and I think they'll find. And Imp is good as the foil. Imp for me sometimes also stands in for the audience, like so you're kind of the butt of the.
Yeah,
you're getting to enjoy the joke, and what's the punchline going to be, and so I thought it really worked, and so I'm looking. I think. Smart move. I mean, everyone, and he still won't, Rich Coase won't, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. This is just an addition. This is for Halloween Bonanza. Whatever else he says, if for some reason we have to continue past his retirement, I think that he set it up brilliantly. I mean, like you said, giving them that track record. They're now popular. They were small doses, bigger doses, full. Now they get a star vehicle twice a year, and then I'm sure we'll see more and more of them. So it's just really a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great transition. If that is in case, nobody wants him to retire.
No, and I don't know if I'd want another Svengoolie. I honestly, I don't think. Yes, the original Svengoolie was cool, but it was short-lived, not watched a lot, somewhat forgotten. Not unless you're in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, Son of Svengoolie. A lot I miss about Son, the version of that, but I just can't imagine a new Son of Svengoolie.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know who would. Who would do that? I think that would fail. I think that would fail.
Well, so now Rich Coase had the good fortune of being a writer on the show,
correct,
and then just kind of taking it over a little bit later. So he already knew, just like this, he already knew all of the material,
right,
and knew what the audience wanted, and how to put it out there. And this is kind of a repeat of that without having to be just like another person, like Svengoolie the Third, or something like that.
Which, I mean, granted, we buy into for other things. I just don't think it. Maybe what'll end up happening. This will be long after we're gone, but maybe we'll get. Rich will eventually retire. We get House of Svengoolie for 10, 15, 20 years. Then you could maybe introduce Svengoolie back from the dead, or a new Svengoolie, kind of in the Universal Monster trope too.
Or if Steve has his way, it'll be an AI Svengoolie.
There we are. Yes, they'll create. Yes, that's a horror. Sorry, Steve. AI is true horror. Okay, if I can't tell what's real and what's not anymore, I don't know. That's a world. That's a scary world to me. But so yeah, I have nothing there. I have no critique, no critical, nothing wrong with it. I mean, and what people forget is when you go to watch the Sven bits like online, shorts, but say something like Saturday Night Live. If you look on anything on like YouTube where they replay Saturday Night Live and you get the highlights, you're like, my God, it's the funniest show ever.
Yeah.
No. That might have been one funny skit in 4 weeks of episodes. So, I mean, not in, and I'm sure there'll be people that I didn't think it was that funny and inputs, but it's never going to be 100% hilarious. But although I thought every bit worked out really well this time, but you got to remember, like, there's a lot more misses in comedy TV than there are hits.
Yeah. So, and they could have been, and most likely were, they put this thing together over a good amount of time.
Oh, sure.
Whereas Sven was releasing episodes weekly.
Yeah.
Filming and then releasing, filming and releasing. So they had plenty of time to make this episode, the House of Svengoolie, as good as it could be. Correct. And overall, it really was good.
They did a great job. Yeah, it worked really well. And you can keep all the Sven characters. I mean, eventually, it just works. I keep feeling like I'm going to go negative. Nope, there really isn't. Nope, I have nothing negative to say. I think it worked really well.
Yeah.
Because we can save all of our negative energy for the movie that was shown for the first House of Svengoolie.
A gift.
What is it?
It's a crystal. It'll show you your dreams. There.
If you haven't figured it out through context, Mark and I are not the biggest fans of Labyrinth. Much to my children's just shock and horror, I'm sure.
I think I like it less every time I've seen it.
I like watching it with my kids. Now, I say like my kids are like this big, but no, my kids are teenagers and in their 20s.
Yeah.
I like watching it with them. Same thing with Beetlejuice. I don't like Beetlejuice, but I like it with my kids.
There, I will disagree with you.
Well, okay, we'll save that for another show, or if this one runs short, we can always fill that in. I will say I like Beetlejuice more than Labyrinth, but so it's kind of like the event is what I like about Labyrinth, but yeah, I'm not really a fan of the movie for a couple of reasons.
I mean, I think there's just a lot. There's a lot that had worked in other 80s fantasy movies, but did not work here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we got a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of George Lucas, it's a little bit of Jim Henson.
Mm-hmm.
We got a rock star. We've got 80s soundtrack. We've got, whacked out fantasy land. And so, but as a whole, it just doesn't work for me.
The hardest part for me with this movie is, I'm not gonna pick on Jennifer Connelly's acting because she was 14, but that is a bit hard to take.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
If it's her. I don't know if it's the dialogue she was given. In the beginning, the dialogue is cringy.
Yeah,
that felt like, did George Lucas write that dialogue?
Yeah.
It felt like really bad George Lucas dialogue.
That's what George Lucas dialogue.
Yeah. So that I don't think she can be blamed. Now, have there been 14-year-old actresses who knocked out of the park? Jodie Foster.
Oh yeah,
you could say.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, that's not her fault.
But what it is for me is the we talked about this watching the movie, and for the life of me, I can't remember the guy's name. But there is a marked difference between who was the guy that created?
Froud, Brian Froud. So the about 80% of the creatures were based on Brian Froud's art. And if you grew up in the 70s and 80s, Brian Froud put out really cool, odd books on fairies, gremlins, boggins, all kind. My uncle, who Mark, who I was named after, who died recently, he had rest in peace. Gone too soon. And he had all the Brian Froud books. I loved them as a kid because it was whacked out. It was like R. Crumb trying to be Tolkien.
It very much is R. Crumb does Tolkien.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is you have that, and then you have Henson Muppets, which would basically be about the equivalent of Tombstone here.
Yeah. They just don't.
It's very fake and it's very Fraggle Rocky, and it doesn't work against the other.
Yes, Froud's creations are amazing.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why Jim Henson couldn't have just kept them all Froud based. So you get the character that helps her out or doesn't help her, helps her, doesn't help her. He was amazing. His however they made his face move and all that was great.
Yeah.
The giant sort of dumb monster she tags along with later. That's a Froud creation for sure. And so those were that part of Labyrinth I love watching. I love watching Froud come to life, or Frood, however that's listening.
Right. And when you get the little worm guy and those little her head fell off.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me. It takes me out of it.
Yeah. And I'm not to get off on too much of a tangent, but I hate Jim Henson Muppets. Like in Return of the Jedi, I hate the Gamorrean guards. I absolutely cannot. That it took me even as a 12, 13-year-old kid, that took me out of the movie. I'm like, that looks stupid. That does not look like an alien.
It looks like something out of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, well, not even that. It looks like poorly made Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, so if you look at the orcs in the old cartoon, they're very Gamorrean guardy.
Yeah. It just doesn't. It took me out of it. It wasn't, I think, some of the Halloween masks that they bought for Star Wars were better than some of the Muppets. And God help the special editions when he replaced the band with even worse looking Muppets. At least Cy Snoodles was cool looking.
It could be a matter of budget as well. I don't know what Labyrinth was budgeted at.
Right.
They may have run short on budget with
Yeah.
all these other big grandiose things. Like, grab that off of there, put a head on it, and move
Yeah,
that over.
yeah.
Put these feathers on it, and there you go.
Right.
But like the little weird bird people
Mm-hmm.
were, for me, they were tantamount to Salacious Crumb in Jedi.
Yes.
But Crumb was very well made.
Yeah.
He didn't look cheap. Yes, you could tell. Anybody with a head does this, it's a puppet.
Yeah.
But it was very well made.
Yeah.
Versus these weird little feathery slapped together. I could be wrong.
I mean, to me, it would be it's the difference between all the trouble they went to in Jedi to create Jabba the Hutt, which was a puppet. Let's admit it's a puppet.
Yep.
And versus the elephant guy, the elephant keyboardist, who Max Rebo, who I although I personally love Max Rebo, but
I like the whole band.
But it's such a contrast. It just doesn't fit the look, and so it's like having animals suddenly show up and play drums in the middle.
Yeah.
That's what it just doesn't work, and so that I think for me that ruins Labyrinth.
Maybe they interjected it because it was too creepy. Maybe
perhaps,
they had to give kids something.
Correct.
But I don't.
Well,
think,
and what did Labyrinth come after Dark Crystal or before?
I think it was after Dark Crystal.
So because now I know Dark Crystal got huge amounts of criticism because when Jim Henson announced he was doing a fantasy movie, everyone expected the Muppets and they got Dark Crystal. And so I'm wondering if
maybe that's why.
Maybe his knee jerk was I can't risk.
Yeah,
and Brian Fruit is like creepier than Dark Crystal, so maybe that's what he had to do. And I mean, like you said, it appeals to your kids, so clearly it works for who they were appealing to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So,
I'm willing to bet that's why they had to interject some kind of softness.
Yeah, and it's the song. The soft characters get the music. They get it's kind of like the scary stuff doesn't last long. The funny stuff with the Muppet stuff is the focus.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, what is it about 80s rock stars who decide to become actors and just?
I think we're gonna have to disagree.
Oh, see, I mean, it could be all right. So I'm going to get nailed in the comments, but I am not. I appreciate his genius. I appreciate his place in rock and roll history, but I do not like David Bowie at all. I like David Bowie songs when they're done by other people, but he just seems so flat in this. He was as bad as Sting and Dune, and
Sting was pretty bad in Dune.
Yeah, I just don't. I get it. I mean, his look is iconic.
Yeah.
He looks like a Goblin King. 12 to 15-year-old girls out there were in love, with the "Please Take Me, Goblin King."
Yeah,
but I don't know. It fell flat for me. I would have rather had a real actor with a dubbed singing voice than a singer who's trying to act.
Like Jack Skellington.
Yeah.
The actor versus who did his sing.
Yeah.
He wanted to do the vocal. He wanted to do the acting for Jack, but he wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
Danny Elfman. Yeah.
So, but anyway, you probably you have a different opinion. But
I think David Bowie's a fine actor, or was. Rip. I think he was a fine actor. I think, and I'm a huge fan of his music. I don't really get into the music in this movie so much, except for when I'm in the moment. It's kind of like musicals. Well, no, it's not like musicals. Because I was going to say, I don't walk around the house singing "Master of the House," but I kind of do.
Yeah,
it's not that. But it's not my go-to album. Of his soundtrack album, of course, is Cat People. For David, if you want David Bowie, listen to Cat People.
Yeah,
but the music doesn't really do it for me. I think he's a good enough actor, and I also appreciate his genius. And
well, I have a theory because people get really upset, and I'm like, there's a difference between appreciating someone and liking them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so like for me is a subjective. There's no logic to it. You either like it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to sit there and say David Bowie's terrible.
Yeah.
He's awful. No, he's for God's sakes.
Yeah.
I understand what he accomplished. I understand how complex his songs are. I just don't like them.
Yeah.
I hear it on the radio and I turn it. And so I don't like it. I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me. And so,
well, at the risk of, I won't turn this into a musical show.
no, we could, yeah, we should. Well, we could have him.
I have.
That wouldn't be if we had Nick with us. Though, it wouldn't be any fun. He knows way too much.
Yeah, he knows way too much.
We would just be like shallow. It would be so shallow.
Just let him go. But anyway, no, I like Bowie as an actor. I love his music. So that works for me. The only thing was the puppets just took me out too much.
Yeah. I mean, it is a classic, goblin fairy story about kidnapping children and replaced. But the baby should have been replaced rather than just an empty crib. There should have been something creepy and weird in the crib.
But then they wouldn't be able to get to the labyrinth.
No, I know, but
it might have scared you.
Right, that's true. That's true. A scary monster as a child. Then I might like the movie better. But I do like. I mean, there were things in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love, like, one of my favorite scenes is where she's talking to the little creature on the ground and she can't see an exit. It's right there. And then when she suddenly just walks up and the perspective changes and the wall was in front of another wall and there's a hallway. The effects of the labyrinth I thought were cool.
Mm-hmm.
The hiding of David Bowie's face throughout the labyrinth I thought was cool. I mean, so there's a lot of special effects that I did like in the movie. I think when she gets trapped in I forget what they called it, where she slid down.
The helping hands?
Yes, yeah. The helping hands I thought was great. Now those puppets I thought were neat. And that was a cheap effect, just people's gloves doing this.
Yeah.
And I like the helping hands a lot. And so, I mean, I just wish, like you, I wish it was all fruit and no Muppets.
Yeah.
So, but I get it. He got hammered for the Dark Crystal. People just were not expecting that at all.
Which is unfortunate.
Because it's a great movie. That's a great movie. And so, I mean, so Henson can create, he can create great puppets. Mm-hmm. I wish he had done more.
Yeah.
And it definitely is an 80s movie, though. And I do like it for that. I mean, you can just feel it for an 80s.
Yeah, there's something about an 80s movie.
Yeah.
It's the cocaine.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yes. And I'm sure the puppets were all on cocaine.
All the puppets were on cocaine. I mean, all them rocks that one dude was calling, those were crack rocks.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, don't listen to us. Okay, so final verdict on the House of Svengoolie.
House of Svengoolie. I'm there. I'm going to their house every time it's on. Labyrinth. I'm getting out. So,
if House of Svengoolie down the line airs, if it does turn out to be a thing,
mm-hmm.
Hopefully it'll be earlier in the night because my old ass can't stay up that late.
Correct. No.
So I'll go to their house if it starts at 7.
Yes.
So
I have to be home by 9:30.
Yeah. And Labyrinth I can take or leave it. I understand it's a classic.
But again, like all Svengoolie shows, it's not about the movie.
No, not at all.
And just like Svengoolie, I will sit. If they reran Labyrinth and added new scenes to it or updated the vault, I'd still watch it for them. And so that they've got that going for them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let us know what you think. Are we wrong? Is Labyrinth the greatest movie of all time?
And House of Svengoolie sucked.
Is David Bowie a rock god? The answer is yes.
Is Mark totally out to lunch? And the answer is yes. I already know.
It's valid. Everyone's allowed their opinion, even if it is wrong.
It's wrong. It's wrong. I wish I could explain why.
No, I get it because there's you guys like your yes, so there's that. Anyway, yes, anyway, let us know down below what you thought of House of Svengoolie, what you thought of Labyrinth, what you thought of this. And while you're down there, do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, hit that like notification so you don't miss a single video. And just like in the beginning, I'm Paul.
I'm Mark.
And this has been the return to the son of the show.
Master of the house, turning on the clock, ready with a handshake and an open palm.